what is the best way to prioritize and schedule your goals, how to build up and maintain the habit of working hard on the things you want to achieve. So in my life, I have incredibly ambitious goal. Like, heck, this podcast, the goal of this podcast is to find the meaning of life. So I think there's not much that is more ambitious. And so I have to work really hard to achieve this. And maybe you also have ambitious goals, I hope. And you also want to work hard to achieve this. But for me, especially in the last week, I feel like I'm leaving a lot on the table. Like I'm distracting myself from my work by, I don't know, like what I always do is I put on a podcast, go in the kitchen, I eat for like, I don't know, 2 hours. And then I'm like, shit, now I didn't work for 2 hours. Or I'm also not scheduling my work in really fitting to my priorities. I don't feel like I'm 100% like hitting the priorities in the way I could. And yeah, the cool thing is that in the moment, or let's say in the last half year, I'm building up, or let's call it, I'm finding a group of friends that are all incredibly hard workers, that all have really big passions and that also want to work hard. And so because of this, I now know a lot of people that have similar experiences and even more experience than me in like what it means to work hard, what it means to prioritize. So today I talked to one of them. You probably know him from our incredible discussion about the rational solution to the meaning of life and its implementations. It's episode 19. His name is Mark Kagach. Enjoy.
Let's kick it in.
We were talking about those days when you have like a productive streak and in one morning you start to break it, or not in one morning, but like for some reason, like this is what happened to me this week, that I had like a productive time before, and on one morning I just started to listen to a podcast, and then I started to eat something at 11 already. Normally I don't eat at 11. My day didn't really, like, everything got worse and worse and worse. And like I was not super unproductive, but I also was not.
Kind of you do the opposite work, right? So you feel like you feel it looks like you're doing things, but actually you're not being productive, which I find is a super easy trap to fall into. And when you talk about just getting off the streak, I think it can be very detrimental. Like I think I was on a really good streak like 2 weeks ago before I went on a vacation, and then you kind of cut off from it, and it's tough to come back.
Yeah, with vacations it can sometimes be that you have like conscious decision, but like that you consciously decide, okay, now I'm going to take a vacation and now I'm going to get back. But still, like, it's your habit and you're not in the habit anymore.
Yes.
And I really noticed this, like when I was living at my grandparents' place. I told you know this, right? I moved to my grandparents to have like just everything for myself, like just time to work, no friends near. And whenever I had visitors, like when my little sisters came, or when my girlfriend at that time came to visit me or something, when after they left, it was always like, even if they were only there for like a weekend or something.
Yeah, you need to completely start over.
It was so hard to say.
It is day one again.
Yeah. It was like, I don't even, like, in this short of a time, your habits, it's not even really that your habits break, or maybe it is, but like I felt I had this really strong one time when my little sisters were there, and I was like, I'm working here for like the last 2 months. I did nothing but work. Now I'm just gonna spend some time with my little sisters. I'm gonna go on a walk with them.
That was your conscious decision.
It was my conscious decision. And when they went, and I was like, goodbye, and then I went like in like a really dopamine dip. It was like
after they left.
Because like before, it was like I had a good time with them and it was nice, and then it was like, whoa, damn, what's now? Bro, do we have a different definition of dopamine?
I'm not sure. Dopamine is I'm not sure what's the right one. Right, the receptor of trying to do more, like being competitive, like trying to get more.
Yeah.
No, but I don't understand it. You can also say dopamine and just mean like energy levels, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I feel, like dopamine is also the chemical of motivation.
Yes.
So it's
I agree with that. Yes. You didn't feel like you wanted to.
Yeah, I didn't have any motivation anymore. It was
Yes.
like dopamine makes it easy to do things. If you have a lot of dopamine in you,
Yeah.
then
It's like
then
you
want to
did
do
not feel
something.
like conquering the whole world, right?
If you have a lot of dopamine, I think you are
You always are
like or,
energized and relentlessly resourceful.
yeah. Dopamine makes you want things,
Want more.
want to do things,
Yes.
and makes
Yes.
it easy to do things.
Yes.
And this was like I was the opposite. Like they were
Yes.
gone, and I was like,
Yeah.
I feel like
What
like
what with me is when I was on the vacation, I craved for like doing some complex task. I really craved like going in the zone for 90 minutes and just doing some amazing work bout or maybe 3-4 hours, especially in the middle of the day, because like I was super used to that at 11 it just clicks, you know. It's like if I'm not working, I like my brain alarm goes off, and I really, the demand is really there. And afterwards, like if I don't do it, I really feel that I am unsatisfied. Like I would feel physically it, right? And I craved it, and then I come back, and now I'm kind of I like after 2 weeks I had this like, you know, I come straight to the office, and I have this like, you know, I put my headphones on, I get my binaural beats, and I'm just like putting the timer of 19 minutes, and it was such amazing feeling. That was like, oh. But getting back into the zone of uninterrupted focus for weeks was hard. I'm still not there.
yeah. How long?
So
you-
we started from I came past Monday. So the whole week I was just getting back my sleep because, you know, very big time difference. And yeah, I think also, I don't know about the dopamine levels, how were they? I think they were more like just wavy, because like at times I was like, yeah, let's go conquer the world. And then I would sit and try to conquer the world, but I'm not really still in the zone of just a killer mode. Or I also did not have at long times where I could go for like 4 hours of uninterrupted work, because usually I would like text to some clients or do something or like get interrupted, and I would like kind of, you know, break a bit. So I'm still not there, but I think this week was relatively productive. I'm just trying to take it small steps and then build up upon it.
So you always do the 90-minute bouts, and
I try to.
yeah. And they are not the same quality now as they were before the vacation, or those 90-minute bouts, or what's the difference?
Kind of. Like I do feel less, I guess, focused in a way, or like I do feel like I'm less destroying the work.
Okay.
Well, where before I was like doing a very complex task, very hard task, and I was feeling like I have been doing this for weeks, so I'm like, I'm nailing it, you know? And I was like in the zone of doing very hard things.
You have to give me, like, I have a problem with those 90-minute tasks. I realize it now, like, because we talked last Saturday about our like schedules, and I told you that I mainly like let it flow. Like I just go I just go into the task that present in front of me, and I just work on them, and it worked really good for a time, but sometimes it doesn't work so good. And especially if I have to do a lot of not super productive high dopamine, or like work, or not high dopamine, but like work where I'm like I have to listen to podcast intros to like see what different this is so hard to stay like
focused.
Yeah.
You should have like, for me it's like I nearly get angry, but not really. Like it's a switch, and I go in like my face, I like get serious and I look a bit angry, but I'll go like this, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm kind of looking angry, but I'm just very focused. I'm trying to get very focused, right? And I don't think you can do this when you like, you know, text your clients or something like this, right? And that's why I have the biggest problem with kind of work I do right now, is that there is a lot of human interaction. And when you are like, you know, sitting like this, it's hard to have human interaction. You kind of relax and I think the same with intros. Like, it's very hard to, I don't think watching the intros allows you to the capability for doing a great work, right? Or doing great focused work for a long time.
So what you would suggest probably would be to separate like the hard task that you can make focused work on, put them in the beginning of the day, and in the evening do like the
we
other
both
stuff.
read deep work. Like
Yeah.
there are shallow tasks and there are deep work tasks.
Yeah.
I would start with it's easier for me, like the best time for me is at around 11. So after 2 to 4 hours of waking up, you're in the best zone to get focus, right? Huberman. So I would just go for this time for the hardest task you have and leave at the end of the day, or depending on how your energy, because sometimes I would feel quite energetic at 10. So maybe I would put something there. But yeah, hard task, shallow task.
Yeah. It's so when you know that, like my problem with this is when you know that like this shallow task has to get done,
Yes.
then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do the shallow task now. And when the hard task presents to itself, then I'm going to do this hard task. And it often works. But if the shallow tasks, I think this is exactly the dopamine thing, because your brain always compares like the task you do before to the task you do after. I research a lot about dopamine and stuff. So it's like when you do a task now and the task after is like harder or less pleasurable, then it's super hard to make the switch. If the next task, so for example, if I'm doing like the podcast interviews, which is like more pleasurable, less hard, and then I start to do something really hard, really focused, this is like hard to switch, and then my brain always wants to jump back to like a task like this again, so I can't
to the simple one.
Yeah, to the simple one that gives me like quick
dopamine hits.
Like dopamine, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like my brain is like, yes, I have to do this again, and I have to do this again. And I think this is why my strategy is maybe not optimal, because I start with like this, and then
you start with simple tasks.
I start
with just whatever.
I start with a task that is like important right now, or that is like.
But shallow tasks are never important. That's the definition of them.
But
I mean, they're borderline important. Like you probably can leave them up till the end of the day.
I don't agree. Don't you think that like? I think shallow tasks are defined or like
don't require full focus.
No. They don't require focus, but there are important tasks that don't require focus. Like for example, texting your clients. You can't just not text your clients. It's like it's important.
I know. Sadly.
It's like,
I would do it at the end of the day. Like ideally, I would do it at the end of the day for like 90 minutes or 60 minutes just straight. But I have to reply them throughout the day, which always interrupts my focus. Which is
Yeah, but in that case, shallow task is an important task. So it's not that shallow tasks are by definition unimportant. Shallow tasks can be important. But you have to find a way to deal with them in the best way. Another thing about... I'm really, like, from Saturday, from our conversation, I'm really thinking about my way of like, scheduling my work. If I should change something about it. And the thing about planning, because you told me that you, like, you have a pretty good plan, like okay, at 11 I'm working on this task, and then I'm working on this task, and what I did till now was that I just write down my tasks, and I have like lists that give me like the next important task, and I don't take the time to plan in like the beginning of the week or in the beginning of the day. I just when I switch tasks, I look at my lists and see like, okay, this is the next important one, so I just start to work on this one, or like. I have to admit that often, and maybe this is also the problem, is that I don't jump straight to the... I don't look onto the list that tells me what is the next important task, but I do the thing that I think is the most important, because like my head is like, oh yeah, you also have to finish like the intro of the podcast.
And that's why sometimes maybe you can go for a very long amount of work bouts.
Yeah.
While it's just the first things that comes up. This is usually, the Eisenhower matrix. Like the urgent and non-important tasks, or like the non-urgent, non-important, and you just like do them still. I think the calendar is so crucial to me because not only I allocate my time, first of all, you should be very cautious with your time and treat it like, you should treat it like borderline gold, right? Gold, right? So what you should also do is throughout the week, let's say you probably have around 100 hours of work, of like, taking all the times where you need to shit or just walk somewhere. Like, general, you probably can schedule around 100 hours in your week. Like have a schedule and not like, try to schedule every minute. So in those, how do you divide those 100 hours, right? So you try to divide them by your internal priorities, right? So for me, I don't remember precise numbers, but it's kind of like my job, the things I do for like growing as a person, so reading or writing some essay or writing the talk making a talk I was making, right? And then smaller parts would be health, right? I think you would need more than 15 hours a week, I think, somewhere like this.
For health?
Yeah, like it would be like gym, therapy, meditation, eating. Yeah, eating I just put as eat. And then I would have, let's say, 10 hours for friends and like another 3, 4 for family because they're long gone. But when you think about this, 3 hours is a very small amount of time actually in 100, right? So it's just 3%. But doing 3 hours or 2 hours with specifically dedicated to your family, like one specific thing, you have the best relationship with your family instantly.
If you do it every week, 3 hours, yeah, that's true.
No, 3 hours you can do 1, 2, but
if
when you full focus in your family, that gets a very different results. So coming back to like the Eisenhower bullshit, right? So when you plan on your week, I kind of have an idea of what I do at the start of the day, and I try to go for the most impactful, complex thing. Usually impactful would mean complex. In the start of the day and in the end of the day, right? And I would kind of have an idea, am I slacking? Am I not doing what I decided on Sunday would be probably the most logical and most impactful next step. Let's say I was working on writing kind of my mission document, or basically just meaning of life, sadly. Definitely was over that part for quite a while. No worries. But I just wanted to come back because I was talking to you a lot, and I was like, okay, I kind of like, I wasn't 100% sure in my answer. So I wanted to like, it's always good to come back and review it. So I wanted to make this week an essay about like just my mission, outline the reasoning, outline what are the weak parts, how like what things I should, what things would change my mind if they were presented to me, right? And then kind of I would also try to send it to you, like guys, and and just talk about this. But I did not really have the time for this because I was interrupted with the work. But I know that I'm slacking on this one, and I know that if I were to have like a 2 hours free time, I would go for the hard part.
So you didn't schedule time for it?
I did, but it turned like my work had some urgent tasks to do, and I was in the office till like from Monday to Wednesday, so I couldn't like have a rest of the day for just writing the document.
So normally you work in the beginning of the day, and then you have like your afternoon for your own tasks. And now this
was kind of fucked up where I just was working whole day.
Okay. So in the beginning of the week, you set goals for the week, and you have like your fixed times where you do like personal growth stuff and work stuff. And in the beginning of the week, you said like, okay, this is my personal growth goal, or those are my goals for this week that I ideally get done.
Yes. So like priorities, right?
Yeah.
Priorities. Just like ideally you want to go for like 1-2 things a week. So 1-2 things on every part. So for instance, my work is important to me. So what are my priorities in life? And I allocate based on my priorities, my time, and then I look for what is the most impactful action I can do within a week on that. So for my work, that would be contacting X amount of clients or creating an email sequence, which is like a complex task. You need a lot of time on it, but this is a very impactful one. So I would just put, do this, and if you're done with this, maybe these 2 tasks. But if you're not done with this, what the fuck were you doing the whole week, right? Same would go for growth. Like this week, I should have written, like I should finish my like mission essay, but I'm not gonna to. But like I know that this is the only priority I have in my growth, so I don't like scatter around some random resources or like random tasks to do, which just first come up to my mind. I take some time. It's Sunday, 2-3 hours usually, which I would go for less. But it's when you trying to take everything you have in life and figure out what is the most impactful thing to do, it takes fucking time. And then be like, okay, so for my family, probably the most impactful thing would be to have a call with, like, let's say here. For my friends, probably like, our Saturdays. But for growth and for office, like this big task and this big task. And then worry about smaller shits.
So you really have like set goals, or set like time blocks, and then you try to figure out the most impactful thing you can do. Like this is like literally the question you ask. Or,
yes.
Yeah.
So I just have a general idea of how my week looks now. At the start of the day, work. At the end of the day, growth. But then at the Sunday, I'm like, okay, so let's figure out how to fill in those hours. Because let's say I'm trying to do 50 hours of work and 50 hours of my work, and then another 20, 30 hours of growth a week. So let's figure out how to fill up those 80 hours. What is the most impactful thing?
Maybe you work 50 hours a week.
I'm not sure what is my specific hours, and also you account for like the high quality work. So let's say it was Udesh, right? When we were talking about, and he's like, I just try to get I think 8 or 9 hours of work a day. I think 9, and I'm like, yeah, but like you can still fit in more. I'm like, but he's like, no, like none of the motherfuckers that you know who say they work for 80 hours work the 9 hours of actual work bouts, 90 minutes in their headphones, pure fucking focus. And they don't do it. So they can bullshit to like 12 hours, but they don't do the 9 actual useful hours.
Yeah.
I need to count the specific times.
You need what?
I need to count specific times of work I do, but
Yeah, I don't know if you need to. I did this for a while, like just to check how much you work, and then you see like actually you don't work. It's so hard to get like above 10 hours a day, bro. Like
it is hard, but it's also of actual work, right? It is hard.
Yeah.
You can stay in the library for 10 hours. But what I mean is...
But even this, no, if you actually... Like, I scheduled, okay, now I'm working, now I'm taking a break. Like, even, like, only 10 hours of staring at the screen, is hard.
Yeah.
It's already, like, it doesn't even have to be, like, those super focused staring at the screen hours, but... Yeah.
But then think about this. So let's say you go for 10 hours and you're like workaholic.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, you're probably not doing that high quality work. You're probably energy tired. So first of all, you should have scheduled a proper like, NSDR break somewhere in the middle of the day. But you should probably, when you're less tired, work on like, I don't know, maybe talk to your family, like those, or talk to your friends. Like those things will probably be more impactful than this 30-minute task that you think is very important right now doing. Like they probably will be more impactful, and it depends on your priorities. Like my friends and my family become a proper priority where I allocate task on it, like time on it. And I know at the end of the day, I'm not going to do that great of a job. So why would I miss up on being a good friend and not texting my friends,
Yeah. So I don't think that my way of doing, like maybe you can say what your opinion is, because if I would manage to really use like those lists, I've literally programmed the list in my Obsidian where I can, with a template, I start like a task and I give those tasks a few values, like the importance and the time it's going to take, and from this list calculates which is the most important things.
Yes. That's cool.
Like, and it works actually. Like I really believe in this prioritization. It's a really good way.
Okay.
And
it actually works for you.
Yeah,
you actually use it. Cool.
No, that's the problem. Like often, like I have those. I notice the days, like since I have those lists, they will like maybe I have them for 1 year, and they were like in my like since in this year they were like maybe 10 times I really stuck to those lists for like a few days in a row.
Okay.
Like the thing is, all the other times I'm like jumping, like because my head is like, oh, you have to do this as well, and then I don't put it into list. I just start it, and then I do something else, and then a few weeks later I come back to list, and I'm like, oh, I did 5 other goals that were not on the list, and I did 3 of the goals that were on the list, but not like with the list. But whenever like
those, are you doing 3 goals which were most impactful by that list? Did you do the 5 ones which would be the most impactful by that list?
That's the problem, because I just tick off like different goals, the one that I think are important in this moment, and this is. I think this is the problem, because whenever I made it that I really worked on this list, it was like, holy shit, how productive can you be when you like those lists? The list was so crazy long, and like they were like, once I had like 3 days, I had like all my other stuff done, and it was like, I have different lists for different priorities. Like I have a list for university, I've got a list for my research.
What are your priorities?
My priorities are my like research about meaning. Like what is meaningful. Yes. Then I have time efficiency. So I want to increase the time that I use like you have 24 hours, and like time efficiency is like a construct that I defined as how much progress towards your goal you can make within 24 hours. So what we do right now is working on time efficiency.
Like optimizing.
Yeah, optimizing your way of working so you can get more out of your time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So our conversation right now is working on this goal, for example. So I have a list for this as well. Health is another priority. My university is for sure another priority.
University, research. So university meaning health, time efficiency, and time money, efficiency, I think it was, right?
Yeah, money as well. This is the podcast now. I think those are happiness. I don't know if I have a happiness list, but yeah, those are basically my...
several points of feedback, right? So decision fatigue.
No, so. The thing is, the thing I wanted to say before is, if it is stupid. If I would really strictly follow those lists, I think, because I don't have any decision fatigue, the list tells me what is the next task, and I save those 2 hours that you have every Sunday where you plan, because I don't have to plan. I can just look at the list, and the list gives me the next important task because it sorts itself. So if I would actually manage to stay on this list, it could be like really good, but it's so hard to stay on it. Okay, now you can say your opinion.
Why I think the list doesn't save you 2 hours. So I think that the life changes, right? And with the more technological progress, you have faster technological changes. So the life changes faster, right? So the environment changes faster, what means that you have to adapt your actions faster, right? So I don't think that you following your list, which you made for a long time ago, there's probably some task which is relatively important, but you put the importance for it half a year ago, right? So I think deliberately taking time to think of what is the most impactful things to do is a very impactful action. So maybe not 2 hours, maybe 1 hour, but I also look at how the world has changed and like, what should I do now? Because I was previously like doing the plans for like, 3-6 months. And I was like, okay, well, this is my roadmap for next few years. But that doesn't fucking make sense. Like Sam Altman got fired and I have to I have to change half of my, planning for my next 3 years, whatever bullshit that is. Right. So once a week, just figuring out, are you on the right direction? I think is not that. Yeah.
Okay, so...
But also, right? So I plan most of hours of my week, pretty much all of them, right? Like, if you don't follow the list and you say that most of the time it's hard for you to stick to it, it means that you are deciding in the moment, like, first of all, you're a human, right? So, like, you will go for the easiest option. We always do. Just the human fucking nature. Like, how do you know that besides you just going for maybe slacking and going for the easiest option, how do you know you do the most impactful one? Like, it's just the first thing that comes up to your mind that you're like, okay, yeah, we should get this shit done.
I don't know. That's the problem.
Yes, but I when I identify literally a one priority for each, so one task a week, which I should do for each priorities of my life, family, friends, growth and work and health, right? I know this. I thought about this for 2 hours. Is this the most impactful thing I can do for each of those areas?
Yeah, true. And in a week, the world doesn't change so much that you can like.
A week, yeah.
Like you don't. There's nothing that you can justify that. Like, oh no, this is so much. Like maybe there are situations where something much more important comes up, but like in most of the times you can. Like worst case, you adjust your goal next week. Like
yes,
if you have like a super good idea. It's gonna be okay to wait 3 days till you start. Like you don't have to start right away.
And schedule is just really useful because you commit to it. Like you have to stick to it. Like if I were to write it down but not put it in my schedule and not allocate specific time and specific day, I would be like, yeah, I have to work on the meaning of life document. But like whenever I feel like it, or whenever I'm in the mood, or whatever the fuck more things. But when I put it in a specific time from 7 to 10 this day, like the fuck I'm doing if not this.
I don't really know because, like, two things. First thing, I often have, like, I don't write all my goals down, but, like, still, if I look back on the day where I just like slacked around, I still completed shitload of tasks. Like it is.
Were they impactful? It's not about the number, quality or quantity.
Tasks that had to get done. Like
you have to get tidier.
Like for example, when I work on this podcast, there are so many tasks that it's so hard, so many micro tasks that it's so hard to plan. Like I want to change the picture. I want to find out how I do my intro. I want to look for like music that I can play in the beginning. I have to text people. I have to plan interviews.
Okay,
like,
so I would call that chores or course. I think I'm not sure that's right.
Yeah.
So let's say on Sunday, I have like a first 90 minutes of my day or like something like this, where I just do the laundry, I clean up my room, I do like, all this like minor bullshit, which if I don't do for 2 weeks, like the life would get really messy. And I think you can do the same with the podcast. Like, yeah, there are probably some bullshit minor tasks for which you don't need to put on the calendar. So just create something like batch processing of all the minor bullshit at the end of a day just to get this done. And when you batch process this and you don't do it, so let's say you're working on one thing and you're like, oh, wait, I got to do this. And you kind of switch your focus, right? Switching focus, you're dead. But having for like 90 minutes and when you do all those small shits, I think you get way more done.
Yeah. I have to try this more. It's hard. It's hard for me to not allow myself to switch because like this is the other thing. I often like I don't really schedule switching to for example researching the meaning of life, but there are times where I'm just like doing my Anki or doing like some kind of other task, and suddenly I'm like, oh, I have this idea about the meaning of life, and I start to write it down, and I start to write down another note, and then I'm like totally submersed in this research on the meaning of life,
kind of in a flow.
And like 3 days later, I'm like, damn, the last 2 days I did nothing but work on the meaning of life, and I did super much progress, and now I go back to the task I was on before, but it was like 3 unplanned days, 100% on this task, and like thinking back on this was not bad. Like I want to research on the meaning of life just because it was not planned. It doesn't mean that it was bad because it's something I want to work on anyway. So this is like one of the trade-offs that also.
So
it's like a contra, but
yes.
Like,
let me be clear. If I'm in the flow, like say throughout this week, I felt so excited to work on email flows. So like you create basically a user experience for the customers, and that was so interesting for me. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sorry, like I have a schedule, but I'm in such an amazing flow. I'm so interested in this problem. I just will let myself work because I know this impactful problem. So just, like the schedule should not be like, you're a machine.
Exactly like
if you're in the flow, take your time, man.
If you know it's an impactful program and you're on the flow.
But let's say I have some idea, but I'm working on one thing. I'm like, okay, I'll just write it down quickly and then get my focus back to it. And I come back to it when I'm done with my task. Or let's say 90 minutes or whatever. But let's talk about meaning of life.
About the meaning of life?
Let's go.
Okay. Wait. I have to think about this more and how I'm going to schedule my time. Maybe I'm going to try yours. Okay. Let's talk about
I will specifically show you how it kind of looks like. Because it's not overly complex. Like 2 hours is by far enough for a week, but I'll show you. I think you'll like it.
2 hours.
2 hours of just like taking for, let's say, on Sunday and just figuring out what your week looks like.
Yeah.
By the way, Keith Raboy, a VC from Open Door and PayPal. Sorry, he wasn't a VC from PayPal. Does this to all of his CEOs. So just in case. So he does it. He's like super cool, I think. He basically comes, he's a venture capitalist, right? So he comes to some of the CEOs and he's like, okay, so list me all of your priorities for our next meeting, And they list them and then they bring them the list and he's like, okay, now we're going to open your calendar and see what actually happened. And the priorities never match. It's like, I think this is very important because he shows that you should always like work around the time and like, I don't know, I just really like it.
Okay.
But let's do the meaning of life.
Let's do the meaning of life. Okay. You want to start with yours or should I start with
Start
mine?
with yours. I'm going to try to do debunking and then I can do mine.
Okay. So, I believe.
Now, Mark and I went on for the next 2 hours to talk about the meaning of life. And if you are interested in hearing two people that really thought through what their arguments are for what their meanings of life are, and we really discussed our both our arguments for our meaning of life, let them clash into each other, I would highly recommend this. It's like literally on my website I have like a list of my favorite episodes, and it's on top there, so it's number 1 at the moment. So it's the podcast number 19 with Mark Kagach. See you there.